In a world that desperately needs heroes, sometimes they emerge from the most unexpected places. Meet Sarah, a young woman whose courage shines brighter than any flame. When the local school was engulfed in a roaring inferno, with children trapped inside, panic set in. But not for Sarah. While others ran away from the danger, she ran towards it. With her helmet in hand and an unshakable resolve in her eyes, she faced the wall of fire. This isn't just a story about fighting flames, it's a story about the fire within. The story of a girl who, against all odds, became a beacon of hope in the darkest of moments. This is the story of the girl who fought the fire. Thanks for watching. If you were inspired by Sarah's story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tales of everyday heroes. Have you ever wondered what true courage looks like? I'm not talking about the kind we see in movies with capes and superpowers. I'm not talking about the kind people brag about online either. I mean the real, raw, gut-wrenching kind. The kind that burns hotter than fear, that makes a person walk straight into danger when every instinct is screaming to run away. This is the story of one such girl, a girl who fought the fire in a small, quiet town where the biggest news was usually the county fair. A thick plume of black smoke suddenly painted the sky. A home was engulfed in flames, a terrifying sight that sent neighbors scrambling for safety. Panic filled the air. But amidst the chaos, one person stopped. A teenage girl, let's call her Maya, saw something everyone else missed. Through a downstairs window, a small hand was pressed against the glass. A child was trapped inside. Without a second thought, without any protective gear, Maya ran towards the inferno. She didn't hesitate. She later said she couldn't hear the sirens or the shouting, only the sound of her own heart pounding like a drum. She wrapped her jacket around her arm, shattered the glass, and hoisted herself through the window, disappearing into the thick, choking smoke. The crowd watched, breathless, their hearts in their throats. It felt like an eternity. Then, just as the flames began to lick the window frame she'd entered, she reappeared, covered in soot, coughing, but with a small child held tightly in her arms. She passed the child to the first responders who had just arrived, and only then did she collapse to the ground, exhausted but safe. Maya wasn't a trained firefighter. She was just a girl on her way home. But in that moment, she embodied the purest form of courage, the selfless choice to act when faced with another's desperation. Her story isn't about seeking glory. It's a powerful reminder that heroes are ordinary people who find extraordinary strength when it matters most. True courage is about heart. It's about seeing a need and refusing to look away, no matter the cost. What do you think makes a person a hero? Let me know in the comments below. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more stories of incredible human spirit. Thanks for watching. It was a cold winter morning in a small city. The kind of morning where breath turns into mist and everything feels slow. The local elementary school stood quietly at the end of the street. Children laughed as they ran through the gates, holding lunchboxes, wearing scarves, unaware that this day would change everything. In the heart of the city's hustle, inside the fire department, a young woman named Aisha tightened her gloves. The leather creaked, a familiar sound that settled her nerves. At just 24, she was the newest member of the team, and every single day felt like a test she had to pass. She wasn't just learning the ropes. She was trying to prove she belonged. Ever since she was a little girl, watching the big red engines race by, siren wailing, she had dreamed of this. The uniform, the adrenaline, the chance to make a real difference. But the reality of the job was tougher than she ever imagined, and not just because of the fires. For Aisha, the real heat often came from within her own unit. To most of the seasoned men on her team, she was an anomaly. They saw her as too soft, too emotional, too young to handle the brutal life or death pressure. Their side glances and quiet murmurs followed her like a shadow. "She's not built for this," they'd say. One bad call and she'll break. They saw her youth as a weakness, her compassion as a liability. But they were missing the most crucial part of who Aisha was. What they didn't know, what they couldn't see past their own assumptions, was that Aisha possessed something that no amount of training could ever instill, something no drill could ever teach. She had heart. A fierce, unwavering heart that beat with courage and an unshakable desire to help others. While they saw a rookie, Aisha was quietly becoming the soul of the team. It was her calm voice that soothed a scared child pulled from a smoky room. It was her steady hand that comforted an elderly man after a kitchen fire. She remembered names, she listened to stories, and she saw the people, not just the emergency. Her empathy wasn't a weakness, it was her superpower. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. A grudging nod of respect here, a shared smile after a tough call there. They started to see that her softness was actually profound strength. She showed them that firefighting wasn't just about breaking down doors and battling flames. It was about rebuilding hope, one person at a time. Aisha was proving, shift by shift, that the biggest fires are sometimes the ones you have to extinguish within your own team. And the strongest tool you can ever have is a heart full of courage. Thanks for watching our story today. The alarm screamed at precisely 9:17 a.m., a brutal, piercing sound that shattered the quiet morning. The dispatch speaker crackled to life, a voice tight with urgency. Code red. School building on fire. Possible children trapped inside. Instantly, the calm evaporated. The fire station, once a place of quiet readiness, exploded into a whirlwind of controlled chaos. Helmets were snatched and secured. Heavy boots slammed onto the concrete floor in a rhythmic thunder. The air filled with the sharp clicks of buckles and the rustle of bunker gear being pulled on. Outside, engines coughed, then roared to life, their deep growl a promise of action. The massive bay doors groaned open, revealing a world waiting for heroes. Within seconds, the first truck was peeling out, its red and white lights painting frantic streaks across the nearby buildings. Sirens began their relentless wail, a desperate scream cutting through the cold morning air, a sound that demanded attention that cleared a path through the heart of the city. Inside the cab, the mood was tense, focused. Each firefighter was a coiled spring of training and adrenaline. They weren't just racing against the clock. They were racing against the flames, against the smoke, against the horrifying possibility of children trapped inside. Those words echoed in their minds, a chilling mantra fueling their speed. The city blurred past the windows, a collage of startled faces and cars pulling to the side. Every red light, every intersection was a hurdle to be overcome. As they got closer, a dark plume of smoke became visible, a dirty smudge against the clear blue sky, growing larger and more ominous with every passing block. The smell of burning plastic and wood began to seep into the cab, a toxic perfume that was all too familiar. This wasn't a drill. This was real. And in a few moments, they would be stepping out of this truck and into an inferno, with the most precious of lives hanging in the balance. The real work was about to begin. Thank you for watching. These first responders put their lives on the line every single day. If you were moved by this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories. Stay safe, everyone. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. Flames tore through the top floor. Smoke poured out of the windows like black clouds. Parents were screaming. Children were crying, running in every direction. The air smelled like burning wood and fear. Amid the deafening roar of the inferno and the heart-wrenching cries of those trapped, a few brave souls charged forward, their faces set with grim determination. These weren't firefighters, not yet. They were ordinary people, neighbors, strangers, who saw a need and didn't hesitate. The heat was a physical blow, pushing them back, but they pressed on. They formed a human chain, passing buckets of water from a nearby hydrant, a desperate, almost futile effort against the raging blaze. But it was something. It was hope in the face of despair. A young man, barely out of his teens, scrambled up a rickety ladder, ignoring the shouts of caution from below. He reached a window, shattering the glass with his elbow, and pulled a small, terrified child into his arms, carrying them down to safety. Then the sirens. The professionals were here. Fire trucks screeched to a halt, and teams of trained firefighters swarmed the scene, their movements precise and practiced. They uncoiled hoses, raised ladders, and charged into the burning structure with a courage that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. They moved through the smoke-filled corridors, their lights cutting through the darkness, searching for anyone left behind. They were a beacon of order in the midst of pandemonium. As the sun began to set, casting long, somber shadows, the fire was finally brought under control. The building stood as a blackened skeleton, a ghost of what it once was. But out on the lawn, families were reunited. There were tears, yes, but they were tears of relief. Medics tended to the injured, wrapping survivors in blankets. In the aftermath, a quiet sense of community settled over the crowd. Strangers who had worked side by side just hours before now shared stories, offered comfort, and checked on one another. It was a stark reminder that even in the darkest moments, the strength of the human spirit and the instinct to help one another can shine through, creating light where there was only devastation. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content that highlights the best of humanity. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. The air crackled, thick with the smell of ash and fear. Red and blue lights danced across the faces of the crowd, a silent, anxious audience to the inferno devouring the old warehouse. Flames licked the night sky, painting it in terrifying shades of orange and black. Inside our truck, the tension was a physical thing, a heavy blanket over our shoulders. We were waiting for the all clear, for the signal that it was safe enough to even approach. But then, through the roar of the fire and the wail of sirens, another sound cut through the chaos. It was faint, almost imagined, but it was there. A cry. A child's cry. It was a sound that bypasses procedure, a sound that goes straight to the heart. Before anyone could process it, before a single command could be issued, Aisha was a blur of motion. Aisha, wait. I saw our captain, his face etched with concern, lunge towards the passenger door, but he was too late. She was already on the asphalt, her boots hitting the ground with a determined thud. Wait for backup, he yelled, his voice strained, swallowed by the noise. But she wasn't listening. Or maybe she was listening to a more urgent call. I watched her, a lone figure against a wall of fire. She moved with a purpose that defied the danger. There was no hesitation in her stride. She grabbed her oxygen mask, the familiar hiss as it sealed to her face a small comfort in the madness. She pulled her heavy jacket tighter around her, a thin shield against the blistering heat. The cries from inside grew a little clearer now, small, desperate pleas that twisted a knot in my stomach. Aisha paused for a fraction of a second at the threshold, where smoke billowed out like a hungry beast. She looked back, not at us, but at the fire, as if sizing up an opponent. Then, with a deep breath that I could almost feel myself taking, she stepped through the veil of smoke and disappeared into the heart of the blaze. All we could do was watch, our hearts pounding in our chests, waiting for a hero to emerge from the flames. Thanks for watching this story of incredible bravery. If you were moved by Aisha's courage, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of everyday heroes. Stay safe out there. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm sharing a story that still sends a shiver down my spine. Imagine this. You step inside and instantly, it's hell on earth. The heat is like a physical blow, so intense it feels like it's melting you from the inside out. All you can hear is the terrifying roar and crackle of flames, a sound so loud it drowns out your own thoughts, your own heartbeat. The hallway in front of me was a tunnel of pure black smoke. It was thick, oily, and suffocating. I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face. My flashlight, which I thought was powerful, barely managed to cut a tiny, hazy circle in the oppressive darkness. Every single breath was a struggle, a battle for air that burned my lungs. It felt like trying to breathe through a wet cloth soaked in ash. With each step forward, I could feel the floorboards groaning under the strain, some already weakened by the fire. The temperature just kept rising. It was like walking deeper and deeper into a furnace. The smoke was disorienting, and my sense of direction was completely gone. All I could rely on was the feel of the wall against my fingertips, my only guide in that blinding chaos. The fear was overwhelming, a constant whisper in my ear that this next step could be my last. It wasn't just about escaping a fire. It was about surviving a living nightmare, one breath at a time. The air was getting thinner, the heat more intense. I knew time was running out. Every second felt like an eternity, and the only thing driving me forward was the primal instinct to live, to find a way out of the inferno. Stories like this remind us how fragile life can be and how important it is to be prepared. Thank you for listening to my experience. If you found this story compelling, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more content. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Then she heard a child's voice, crying faintly from somewhere down the long, smoke-filled hall. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the crackle of the flames. She pushed forward, her eyes stinging, scanning the chaos around her. Where was it coming from? Hello? Is anyone there? Where are you? She shouted, her own voice sounding thin and distant in the roar. There was no verbal response, just a choked cough, followed by a series of desperate, heartbreaking sobs. It was enough. She followed the sound, her every instinct screaming at her to run the other way, but her feet kept moving forward, toward that cry for help. The smoke was thicker here, a suffocating black curtain that made it almost impossible to see. She dropped to her knees, crawling, feeling her way along the wall. Then she saw the silhouette of a large desk at the very end of the corridor. The sobs were louder now, clearer. She reached the desk and peered underneath. Huddled in the darkness were two small children, their faces streaked with tears and soot, their eyes wide with terror. They were clutching each other, trembling uncontrollably. For a moment, she just stared, a wave of relief so powerful it almost buckled her. They were here. They were alive. She softened her voice, making it as gentle and calm as she possibly could. "It's okay," she whispered, extending a hand slowly. "I'm here. I've got you. You're safe now." The smaller child flinched, but the older one looked at her with a glimmer of hope. She didn't rush them. She just stayed there, a reassuring presence in the midst of the nightmare. "My name is Sarah. What are yours?" she asked softly. After a moment's hesitation, the older one whispered their names. "Okay," she said with a small, encouraging smile. "We're going to get out of here together." Carefully, she wrapped her arms around them, pulling them into a protective embrace. "Hold on tight to me," she instructed, her voice firm but kind. She pulled them close, shielding their faces as best she could with her own body. Step by agonizing step, she began to lead them back the way she came, moving toward the distant promise of fresh air and safety. Every footstep was a victory, every breath a prayer. They were not just escaping a fire. They were walking toward a new beginning, together. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. The siren screamed, but all Aisha could hear was the frantic beating of her own heart. The building was an inferno, a roaring beast of orange and black. Inside, two small children were trapped. We followed Aisha, our gear feeling impossibly heavy, our training kicking into overdrive. She moved with a desperate grace, navigating through smoke so thick it felt solid. She found them huddled in a closet, their small faces streaked with soot and tears. Shielding them with her own body, she carried them out, one under each arm, their small hands clinging to her coat. The moment she handed them over to the paramedics, the relief was palpable, but it was fleeting. Just as she caught her breath, a faint cry, almost swallowed by the roar of the flames, reached her ears. Another one. There was still someone inside. Her captain's voice boomed through the chaos. Aisha, that's enough. The structure's collapsing. Get back now. He was right. The building groaned, threatening to give way at any second. Every instinct, every bit of training screamed at her to obey, to retreat to safety. But that cry, it was the sound of a life hanging in the balance. Ignoring the shouts, ignoring the danger, she looked back at the monstrous fire. In that split second, she made a choice. It wasn't a choice born of recklessness, but of a profound duty, a deep-seated need to protect. She tightened her helmet, took a deep breath of the smoky air, and ran back into the blaze. The team watched in disbelief as she disappeared into the smoke and fire once more, a lone figure charging back into the heart of the inferno. What happened next is a testament to the incredible bravery that defines the very best of us. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. The roar of the flames was deafening, a monstrous beast consuming everything in its path. We all screamed, our voices cracking with desperation. Stop. Don't go back in. But she was a blur of motion, a determined silhouette against the raging inferno. Without a moment's hesitation, she plunged back into the heart of the fire. Inside, the world had transformed into a living nightmare. The heat was a physical blow, so intense it felt like it was melting the very air she breathed. Smoke, thick and black, choked the space, turning day into a toxic night. The once sturdy walls groaned and splintered, pieces of the ceiling raining down like fiery meteors. It was a structure on the verge of total collapse, a death trap waiting to spring. Even through the protective mask, every breath was a struggle, a desperate gasp for oxygen that wasn't there. Her lungs burned, her vision swam. The intense heat radiated through her gear, making her gloved hands tremble uncontrollably. Every nerve ending, every primal instinct in her body screamed at her to turn back, to flee, to save herself from being consumed by the blaze. The symphony of cracking wood and shattering glass was a constant, terrifying reminder of the danger. But amidst the chaos and the fear that clawed at her, another voice, deeper and more powerful, echoed in her heart. It was a voice of resolve, a quiet whisper that told her she wasn't finished. There was still something or someone that needed her. This wasn't just a building, it was a promise she had to keep. Ignoring the symphony of destruction and the desperate pleas of her own survival instincts, she pushed deeper into the fiery maze, her every step a testament to a courage that burned brighter than the flames surrounding her. She navigated the labyrinth of fire and falling debris, her eyes scanning desperately through the smoke. Then she saw it. Tucked away in a corner, shielded by a fallen beam, was a small, terrified creature. A tiny kitten, its fur singed, its eyes wide with fear. In that moment, the entire world narrowed to just the two of them. With a surge of adrenaline, she scooped up the fragile life, tucking it securely inside her jacket. Turning back, she now had a new mission: get them both out alive. The journey out was even more perilous, but with a small, trembling life against her chest. Her steps were sure, her purpose absolute. Finally, she burst back into the open air, a hero not just for what she faced, but for what she saved. Thank you so much for watching. If you were moved by this story of courage, Please hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible content. We'll see you in the next one. Imagine walking down a hallway, the air growing thick and hazy. That's what she found herself doing, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Then she saw it, the classroom door at the end of the hall, dark smoke seeping from under it like a sinister fog. She ran, her mind racing faster than her feet. She shoved the door, but it was jammed solid. It wouldn't move, not even a millimeter. Panic began to claw at her throat, but then she heard it. A faint sound, almost lost in the crackle of the approaching flames. Coughing. Children's coughing. Everything changed in that instant. The fear was still there, a cold knot in her stomach, but something else rose to meet it, a fierce, unyielding resolve. She wasn't just trying to open a door anymore. She was fighting for lives. The smoke was a living thing, stinging her eyes, making every breath a battle. She scanned the floor, her vision blurry with tears and smoke. Her fingers closed around something hard and cold, a piece of metal, maybe a broken pipe. It felt heavy in her hand, like a tool of hope. With a desperate cry, she swung the metal against the door. The sound was a loud, jarring crack, but the door held. She swung again, putting every ounce of her strength, her fear, her desperation into the blow. The wood splintered. Again. The impact echoed down the empty hall. A crack appeared, a small victory against the inferno. With one final mighty heave, she slammed the metal into the weakened wood. The door groaned, protested, and then burst open. A wall of black smoke and searing heat slammed into her, forcing her back a step. Through the choking haze, she saw them. 5 small figures, huddled together in the far corner, their faces streaked with soot and terror. Their eyes, wide and pleading, found hers. They were just kids, trapped and terrified. Her own fear vanished, replaced by a surge of protective instinct. "Come on," she yelled, her voice raw but strong, cutting through the chaos. She reached out her hand, a lifeline in the smoke. "We're getting out of here. Stick together and follow me." One by one, they scrambled towards her, and together, they ran from the darkness back towards the light. This story is a powerful reminder that heroes aren't just in movies. They're ordinary people who make extraordinary choices in the face of fear. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible tales of courage. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video. The air was thick with dust, each breath a struggle. I could hear their frightened whimpers behind me, a chorus of fear that spurred me on. One by one, I guided them, my hand a brief, reassuring touch on each shoulder as they shuffled past me down the corridor. "Keep moving," I urged, my voice strained, trying to project a calm I didn't feel. The building itself seemed to be in agony, letting out a deep structural groan that vibrated through the solace of my shoes. It was a sound that promised collapse. My eyes darted upwards. A spiderweb of cracks spread across the ceiling, and then, with a sickening crunch, pieces began to rain down. Small chunks at first, then larger slabs of plaster and wood. It was like a nightmare in slow motion. Time stretched and warped, every second an eternity. Through the swirling haze of debris, I could see it. The exit sign, a blurry beacon of hope just ahead. We were so close. We were going to make it. But the building had other plans. With a deafening roar that swallowed all other sounds, a huge section of the roof came crashing down right in front of us. A solid wall of rubble and twisted metal now blocked our path to freedom. For a moment, just a single heart-stopping second, I froze. My mind went blank. This was it. There was no way around, no way through. It was an impassable final barrier. Then, through the chaos, a flicker of light caught my eye. To the left, a window. It was small, probably not meant for escape, set high in the wall, but it wasn't blocked. It was a chance, maybe our only one. A surge of adrenaline washed away the despair. It might just be big enough. We had to try. This way, I yelled, pointing towards that small square of hope. Now. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what is coming next. Your support means the world. See you in the next video. Have you ever wondered what it takes to be a true hero? Is it about superhuman strength or something deeper? Today we're talking about Aisha, a firefighter whose story of courage will stay with you long after this video ends. Picture this, a building consumed by flames, smoke so thick it chokes the very air you breathe. Inside, a group of children is trapped, their hope fading with every passing second. That's when Aisha and her team arrive. While her colleagues battled the inferno from the outside, Aisha knew time was running out. She had to get those kids out, and fast. The main exit was blocked, a wall of fire standing between the children and safety. Panic began to set in. But Aisha, a beacon of calm in the chaos, spotted a small window, their only chance. Without a second's hesitation, she smashed her elbow through the glass. The shard sliced through her heavy-duty glove, a sharp, searing pain shooting up her arm. But she didn't flinch. She couldn't climb out one by one. Her voice cut through the roar of the fire, strong and steady. It was the kind of voice that commands trust, the kind that makes you believe everything will be okay, even when it feels like the world is ending. The terrified children, seeing the resolve in her eyes, listened without question. They scrambled through the narrow opening, one after another, into the waiting arms of the firefighters below. Aisha was their guardian angel, a shield against the heat and fear. She counted them as they went, her heart pounding with a mix of adrenaline and relief. 1, 2, 3. All the way to the last child. As the final one was pulled to safety, a collective sigh of relief went through the rescue team on the ground. They had done it. But Aisha's ordeal was far from over. Just as she turned to follow, a horrifying crack echoed through the room. The floor beneath her feet, weakened by the intense heat, gave way. Flames erupted around her boots, licking at her gear like hungry wolves. She tried to pull herself back, to make her own escape, but a sudden dead weight held her fast. Her oxygen tank was snagged, caught in the collapsing debris. She was trapped. Outside, her team watched in horror as the window she had just cleared for the children became framed by a terrifying wall of fire. What happens next is a testament to the unbreakable spirit of those who run toward danger when everyone else is running away. Aisha was stuck, her air supply dwindling, surrounded by a raging inferno. Did her team get to her in time? The full story of her incredible bravery and the dramatic rescue that followed is something you won't want to miss. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video exploring the lives of real-life heroes. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Have you ever wondered what goes through a hero's mind in their final moments? We often see the daring rescues, the explosions, the split-second decisions. But what about the quiet moments after? The moments when the chaos fades, and all that's left is the consequence of their choice. This is the story of Aisha, a firefighter whose last act was one of pure, unhesitating courage. Imagine the scene. Flames are consuming an old, unstable building. The air is thick with smoke, and the roar of the fire is deafening. Aisha has just pushed the last child out of a window to safety into the waiting arms of her team below. A wave of relief washes over the crowd as the child is caught. But then, a horrifying crash. The structure groans, and a heavy beam collapses, pinning Aisha to the floor. Outside, panic erupts. Her team, her family, and fire and ash scream her name, Aisha, Aisha. They scramble, they try to force their way back in, but the building is a death trap. The chief orders them back, his voice cracking. It's too dangerous. The structure is giving way, and any rescue attempt would be suicide. They are forced to watch, helpless, as the building they were trained to conquer becomes a tomb for one of their own. Inside, the world has shrunk to a few feet of smoke and pain. Aisha struggles. She pushes with all her remaining strength, her muscles screaming in protest. She twists, she pulls, trying to dislodge the immense weight crushing her leg, but it's no use. The beam won't budge. Above her, the ceiling glows a terrifying, beautiful orange as the fire dances, drawing closer. It's getting harder to breathe. For a moment, fear might have taken hold. But it didn't. Instead, Aisha's gaze drifts towards the open window. She sees the night sky, a small patch of freedom. She imagines the child she just saved, breathing in that fresh, cool air, scared but alive. Alive because of her. She thinks of the child's future, first steps, first words, graduations, a whole lifetime of moments that almost didn't happen. And in that final, terrible moment, a profound peace settles over her. She stops struggling. She looks up at the fire, not with fear, but with acceptance. A slow, calm smile spreads across her face. It's not a smile of happiness or of sadness. It's a smile that says, I did my job. A smile that says, it was worth it. In the heart of the inferno, surrounded by destruction, Aisha found her purpose and, in its fulfillment, her peace. Thank you so much for watching and sharing this moment with us. If stories of courage and sacrifice resonate with you, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that like button. We'll see you in the next one. Have you ever wondered what goes through a firefighter's mind when they run into a burning building while everyone else is running out? What kind of courage does it take to face a wall of flames, knowing you might not come back? Today, I want to share a story that answers that question. It's a story of incredible bravery, a story that deserves to be told and remembered. It was a cold Tuesday night when the call came in, a massive warehouse fire down by the docks. Flames were already licking the sky, painting the night orange and red. For one firefighter, this wasn't just another call. Inside that inferno, she knew people were trapped. Without a second's hesitation, she led her team in, disappearing into the thick, black smoke. The heat was unbearable, a physical force pushing back against them. Debris rained down as the structure groaned under the fire's assault. She found them on the second floor, a group of workers cornered by the blaze, their faces etched with terror. One by one, she guided them to the fire escape, her calm voice cutting through the roar of the fire. She made trip after trip, her lungs burning, her vision blurred by smoke and sweat. She got the last person out onto the ladder and saw them descending to safety. For a moment, she could have followed. She could have saved herself. But that's not who she was. She turned back. She had to make sure no one else was left behind. It's a code they live by: leave no one behind. She pushed deeper into the building, shouting through her mask, searching every corner the fire hadn't yet consumed. The building was screaming its final warning. Her comrades yelled for her to get out, their voices desperate over the radio. But she had to be sure. She made it to a window, likely for one last look, one final sweep. Moments later, the roof gave way in a deafening crash of steel and fire. When the flames finally died down, hours later, the fire department began the heartbreaking task of searching through the wreckage. They found her helmet first, a symbol of her courage, then her burned gloves, and finally, her body still near that window. She had stayed. She stayed until the very end, fulfilling her duty with her last breath. This story isn't just about loss. It's about the profound spirit of service that defines our first responders. They are ordinary people who, in moments of crisis, become extraordinary heroes. Let's never forget the sacrifices made by firefighters like her. Their legacy is a reminder of the best of humanity. Thank you for listening. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories of courage and inspiration. Stay safe and always be grateful for the heroes among us. The next morning, her face was everywhere. On every screen, on the front page of every paper, the headline was always the same: The Girl Who Fought the Fire. It was a title she never asked for, but one she had earned with everything she had. News channels, one after another, broadcast her story, calling her a hero, a symbol of courage. The city, once bustling and loud, seemed to hold its breath in her honor. Strangers cried on street corners, sharing a collective grief for a hero they'd only just met. In schools across the district, children bowed their heads in moments of silence. They were too young to fully grasp the sacrifice, but they understood bravery. The very children she had carried from the flames, their small hands clutching flowers, made a pilgrimage to the fire station. They left bouquets of daisies and roses at the foot of the station's flagpole, a colorful, silent tribute to the woman who gave them a future. It was a sight that brought even the toughest firefighters to their knees. Her captain, the man who had once looked at her with doubt, now stood before a sea of cameras and microphones. His uniform was immaculate, but his composure was broken. Tears streamed down his weathered face, carving paths through the soot that still clung to his skin from the night before. He tried to speak, his voice thick with emotion, but he could only manage one sentence, a single truth that echoed louder than any siren. He said, "She wasn't just a firefighter. She was the bravest soul I ever knew." In that moment, she wasn't just a girl who fought a fire. She became a legend, a testament to the fact that the brightest flames of heroism often burn in the quietest of hearts. Thank you for watching and for honoring her memory with us. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories of incredible courage. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about something we all admire, something we all strive for: courage. But what is it, really? We often picture courage as this loud, heroic act. The knight in shining armor, the firefighter rushing into a burning building, a lion's roar. But here's the thing about courage: it doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a whisper that says, "Go one more step." Think about the last time you were truly scared. Maybe it was before a big presentation, a difficult conversation, or stepping into a new chapter of your life. That feeling in the pit of your stomach, the racing heart, we all know it. We're taught to see that as a sign to stop, to retreat. But real courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being scared and still moving forward. It's about acknowledging that fear, looking it right in the eye, and taking that next step anyway. I want to tell you a story about someone I know named Aisha. She faced a situation that would make most of us freeze. Everything was on the line, and the easy choice, the safe choice, was to back down. But Aisha embodied that quiet courage. She didn't run away when things got hard. She ran toward the danger. Not because she wasn't afraid, believe me, she was terrified. But she knew what was at stake. She knew what she had to do. Because courage isn't found in the absence of fear. It is found in the choice to face it anyway. Her story reminds me that courage lives in the small moments just as much as the big ones. It's the courage to be vulnerable, to ask for help, to try again after failing, to stand up for what's right, even when your voice shakes. It's that internal decision, that quiet resolve to push through the discomfort because you believe in something more than your fear. It's choosing to show up even when you'd rather hide. So the next time you feel that fear creeping in, remember it doesn't disqualify you from being courageous. In fact, it's the very thing that makes your next step an act of true bravery. What does courage look like to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read them. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have you ever stood frozen, watching a pillar of smoke rise against the skyline, a knot of dread tightening in your stomach? For most of us, that's where the story ends. We watch, we hope, we pray. But for a select few, that's where their story begins. That's the call to action, the moment they run towards the very danger everyone else is fleeing. Today, let's talk about the everyday heroes who walk among us, our firefighters. Imagine the heat, not just the warmth of a fireplace, but a blistering, suffocating inferno that devours everything in its path. Imagine the weight of over 75 pounds of gear, the world reduced to what you can see through a smoky visor, your own breathing loud and rhythmic in your ears. This is their office. In a world where every instinct screams, "Get out," they push forward. They crawl through blinding smoke, not knowing what's on the other side of a door. Their only guide the training ingrained in their muscles and the trust they have in the person next to them. It's easy to see the uniform and the big red truck and think of them as larger-than-life figures. But beneath the helmet is a person just like you or me. They have families they want to go home to, hobbies they love, and their own fears to conquer. The difference is, they've made a conscious choice to put the lives of strangers before their own safety. They're the calm voice in the chaos, the steady hand reaching out from the darkness. They see people on the worst day of their lives, and they bring skill, compassion, and an unwavering resolve to make things better. It's not just about battling flames. It's about rescuing a family pet, comforting a child, or simply being a pillar of strength when a home has been lost. So next time you hear a siren wailing in the distance, take a moment. Remember this story. Somewhere out there, someone's walking into the flames so others can walk out alive. Someone's fighting the fire. Not for glory, not for fame, but simply because their heart won't let them do anything less. And maybe that's what true courage really is. Because heroes aren't born, they're forged in the fire. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more content that matters. Stay safe, everyone.